Thank you guys for joining us. I'm Andrew Ferrier. I'm the co-founder of Digital Venture Partners. We are launching a executive produced series with Black Enterprise, which is called Green Enterprise, which we're going to spotlight Black and women founders within the cannabis space who are making great strides for really representing our culture well and transitioning what they've achieved in other segments into the cannabis space so we can kind of build an ecosystem in which we can all benefit. Today we have Tyla and John Salley of Deuces 22. So we really appreciate you guys for coming on. I would love to start with the kind of the idea of Deuces 22, how it came together, and what was kind of the runway. How long did it take from conception to, this is something that's real, that's really tangible?
That's a kind of a trick question because
Mm-hmm.
there's ups and downs. But the idea mostly came from I like to smoke, he likes to smoke, and we were doing that. And it was mostly just like the idea of knowing quality products were available for everyone wherever you were. And there's a lot of misinformation. A lot of people don't necessarily know what they're getting or where it's coming from. And I wanted to start a brand where it was like a safe home. I also felt like, there needs to be more representation within the cannabis industry. It's a huge business now that's legal that wasn't legal forever. And as Black people, we should probably be a part of it because there aren't that many. So that's kind of how we got into it.
Yeah, well, she'd come out of school and I walked in and said, we should be in business. We smoke this much weed. And I had been in business since 2005. But in 2014, 15, it was changing. And I said, if you're going to invest $200,000, $300,000 into me going to college, which she wanted to stay in college, she did the 1 year. And I said, but I got to pay another $250,000. We should invest it into your future. And so investing into her future was buying the weed.
Right.
And her mentality was entirely the coolest thought you can possibly get from a kid. It was so, what do you call it? Yeah, I only want to smoke. We're only going to have flower. We're only going to have this. And I was like, no, we got to get in the vape and we got it. She said, no, flower. And we're going to stay to the essence of cannabis. And the crazy thing is her thought process. Like I wasn't even thinking totally black and white because I, didn't see it or hadn't seen it. I was just used to not being the only Black guy in places. And then understanding that my friend got so much time in jail for allegedly being involved, and we were seeing places that were 200,000 square feet, 1 million square feet of cannabis with people who didn't look like us or never smoked weed.
Right.
So we said we have to definitely, the pioneers get the arrows, but somebody has to do it. Why not us?
Right. That's a great reason to jump into the space. I think everybody who looks like us has kind of a similar story, right? We see how it affected our communities, how we were criminalized. I'm from the deep South. So, it's still like that, in Georgia, in Alabama, Tennessee. People still get 10, 15 years for minimal amounts of cannabis. So a major thing that I think has to change nationwide is in certain areas, Black people don't see it as a viable business model yet. If you're on the West Coast or if you're in a legalized state or even near one, I think people kind of see the developing opportunity. But in certain parts of the country, especially in the South, where there's a large concentration of Black people, we don't have that thought process yet, right? We still look at it as something that could still get us locked up, still get us on the wrong side of the law, or fail a drug test. Certain states still drug test for cannabis. So I think that's a major development we need to see, people who look like us finding success and kind of changing the narrative and diversifying these rooms.
Yeah.
But But my next question is, how has COVID affected you guys' business, and what adaptations did you have to make?
We haven't been able to take the trips that we wanted to take to do some more promotions. I'm of the mind of wanting to expand the brand um, with marketing and digitally as much as I can internationally, because it I want Deuces 22 to be a household name. So us wanting to discover other industries, other markets was really important to me, and so the whole virus kind of slowed that travel down.
Tell them the truth.
Yeah, we were supposed to go to Jamaica. Didn't happen.
That's terrible.
Yeah, we were gonna. So last October, I introduced Tyler to her farm in Jamaica. So you have to understand, as her father and as a CVO, Chief Visionary Oracle, she's the CEO. She calls all the shots. I was like, yeah, we're gonna have Jamaica. When she goes, slow down. First, we gotta get California. And so, she's young and smart. So I had to wait. And when we went to Jamaica and she did some roads that she's still afraid of driving through now, and we got to the farm, she was like, I grow weed in Jamaica. I was like,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
we could internationally ship from Jamaica to Germany, to Spain, who they have decided they don't want people to grow in their countries. They want to import the cannabis. So she now has a viable farm in Jamaica to when the world opens up, you can get ganja from Deuces 22. We also have great growers up in Humboldt. Um, Vital Garden Supply is growing our weed in California. Flower One out of Nevada, which is the largest grow in Nevada, is what we have in Nevada. We haven't chosen who we're going to grow with out of Michigan yet and out of the rest of the states. But we have a boutique brand that literally picks only the top bud. So we take the top of every plant that we say, we like this plant. If she likes the smell, she'll take a piece. If she likes the way it lights up, she'll say, how many pounds do you have of that?
Wow.
And as opposed to just saying, we only have one kind. If it's only 100 pounds,
that's all we have.
That's all we have?
Spoil it.
Yeah, we're going to sell 100 pounds of that. 100 pounds. We have sativa, indica, and hybrid. I'm a sativa smoker because I'm a lightweight. I just started smoking 20 years ago. She started smoking 20 years ago. She's 23.
That's funny.
But we really want to prioritize the quality of the product. I was very the whole brand is quality over convenience. It shouldn't have to be one or the other. It should be equal. So that's something also we're trying to maintain is that quality. And because there's a lot of brands, but there aren't us. There's not
right.
this. So we want to maintain that.
That leads me to my next question. Tyler, our generation, we are marketed to a little bit differently than, let's say, John's generation. So let's say in the 80s, they handed George Foreman a grill and put him on TV for 30 seconds and people believed that was his grill, right? Even though we now know that was probably a paid placement. In our generation, due to social media, we can kind of tell what our celebrities and who we look up to, what they really engage with, how they really live, what they really see. So we can kind of see the authenticity of product placement a little bit better. So how do you feel like a lifestyle brand has to really connect today in the age of social media and more transparency?
To be honest, I feel like if you're honest from the get-go and you're transparent about where you're going, what you want, and your objectives, then everyone will see that you're genuine. And for me, I decided to become my brand, if you will. I wanted my brand to be something that I represented. Cannabis is a part of my lifestyle, but there's more to the lifestyle. And I wanted to normalize and educate people about the lifestyle. And that way it's like, no, I'm not trying to feed you anything. I'm literally telling you, hey, I suffer from migraines. This is what I do. Or here is what you don't know about cannabis. All the things that you've been told, most of them aren't true because there's a whole propaganda that you didn't know about. So I felt like education, by pushing education along with the lifestyle, would really make it so that people could find where they fit. And I think that's the whole idea, is not making a one size fit all, but more of this explanation on how you can find what's perfect for you. A lot of people don't know what
Personalize the brand to people's relationship with cannabis individually.
And they've been told by my generation, as you pointed out, because I've agreed that this is the food of the devil, and they really pushed it to the point of, like, even in the movies, right? In the movies, if you want good drugs or good weed, go find the black guy.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Oh, this is pretty good. I got it from a Negro. You know, that was even so. That mentality of this is the food or the smoke of the devil. Reefer used to be what was used for the jazz guys to in between their heroin thing. So this was a big thing in our community of get that reefer away from me, get that piece away from me. It's going to lead to this. It's so funny. It leads to you enjoying your life. It leads to you sleeping well. It leads to you not having pain. But what they wanted you to think is that it led you to a jail cell. It was designed to do that in our community. It's not like I know one, well, I know a lot more now, but back then I only knew of one guy growing that was black. One, right? Not saying there wasn't more, but I only knew of one in the 90s and early 2000s. Now we have a whole correlation, is that what it's called? A whole group of black growers, the Black Cannabis Growers Association. So there's a bunch. We deal with our social equity with Greenhaven, LA, and Chauncey, our partner, is literally everybody that's connected, that's of color, that is black. We literally know who they are. Not saying we're only doing that, but we give as much support when they're doing events or if they need us involved, and how we can bring them into what we're doing as well.
Exactly. That's amazing. It actually brings me to my next point for you, John. I think the vertical experiment failed within cannabis over the past few years. We see all these LPs losing their valuation, becoming insolvent. So moving forward, what do you think the next trend for success is going to be? Do you think it's going to be the more boutique brand, kind of how you guys are operating right now?
Yeah, we were blessed to have our boutique brand. We invested a lot of money to get to this point. There was a lot of hit and miss. We literally one time we both bent down to pick up something and we missed a whole bunch of things. Right? It was a blessing. But way we do it, since we're a lifestyle brand, this unbelievable woman not only picks the best weed and knows the best weed and is a successful stoner, she also made the brand lifestyle to the point where you'll start seeing Deuces 22 in fabric, Deuces 22 in building, Deuces 22 in television and in podcasts, in trips, retreats. Like, she's making it everything Deuces 22. It's like Amazon. And the cool part of having those different things is not being stuck to one thing and not believing you have to be in one thing. So we have the greatest packaging. Our packaging literally holds 1/8 of cannabis, the biggest bud we can possibly get to you. It keeps the cannabis at 70 to 80%, 80% humidity when you open it and close it back. It has augmented reality on it. So when you download our app and point it at our package, you can see if it's been open or not, and you're definitely getting the authentic cannabis that she, let me get it right, that she literally gone through and smoked and said, this one, pack this up, this one, and we are in charge of the packaging. So we figured out a way to stay um, authentic, and we figured out a way to stay true to ourselves, and we figured out a way to get you a high quality cannabis, as she would say, a high quality smoking experience. We also are doing our show, the making of the brand. So we film when she goes and finds the weed. We film our trips. So everybody can be involved with what's going on. We still have to make people feel that it's not um, the devil's food.
Right. Okay, that's great. We're actually going to edit this. We're going to edit this up. It's going to be lightly edited. So I'm just going to interject. How much time do you have? I can go ahead and ask you your last two questions I have for you, and then I can just transition over to Tyler so we can get kind of a little bit more to the
Only
particulars.
because, only because I was high, and yesterday I told my partners to meet me at 12,
Right.
and realized, because I set the alarm. I told her, I said the alarm said 11 o'clock, and I was like, oh man. So I apologize for that.
No,
So
you're
don't
good.
hold
You're
it.
good.
We're going to send you a clip of the trailer of our show too. So make
That's
sure
perfect.
you contact with us. All right.
Yeah, any other B-roll that y'all want to send, that'd be great too. So we can, when we do like the little 1 minute clips, when we start to preview the interview, we'll be able to use it as B-roll. But my two questions I have for you. So the first one would be with the NBA easing the restrictions around cannabis, what effects do you think that's going to have on players? And then do you think that's going to show more NBA players start to kind of bridge into the space?
Well, you that is a trick question because you said NBA bridge into um, they have gone under the bridge, flown over the bridge. Oh,
They built the bridge.
they built the bridge. This is, I think, with them easing, the fact that you can be in a city and walk in and buy cannabis, you shouldn't be tested for that. But because if you can walk into a bar in any city and get a beer or get a scotch or get a wine, and it's legal, whether it's good for you or not, which that works on your liver. I'm not going to say much, and this helps your liver. You should be able to partake in cannabis. And I said before, there really hasn't been any DUIs, and
Right.
it really been report. He came home, he grabbed his bomb, he went into his man cave, and then he came out and beat me up. That usually doesn't happen.
Right.
What usually happens is he came home, he smelled like liquor, and then he went crazy. So this is the best thing. This is one, healing the body, two, relaxing the body, and three, you smoke enough weed, you don't go to the club. You don't go to the club, you don't get shot at in the club. You don't get stabbed in the club. So in professional sports, they should want this. They should want their players taking care of their body. In NASCAR, when you finish racing, the next day, the car is shipped out in pieces. When it's time to go again, they put it back together.
Hmm.
That's the way you want your athletes. You want them to relax their body and come back and be ready to perform again. So the NBA being smart, you're not going to stop it. They've never stopped it. They should stop vilifying people for doing something that the rest of the world can do.
Okay, perfect. And then my last question, and I can let you go. Are there any new emerging states or markets that you're personally excited about transitioning the company into?
Yes. I really can't wait to get into New York. We have our lobbyists in New York working on making sure that we have our spot in social equity. Um, uh, and we really looking forward to being in New York. I'm a New Yorker. I'm looking forward to Georgia opening up. Um, there's a lot of land I would like to do things on, me and my boy Stat. Florida, we want to take over to Florida because when people are coming up from other countries, from South America, we want them to know, just like they come in, they buy Louis Vuitton and they buy Gucci, that that's good for designer there. The sexy when it comes to cannabis is Deuces 22.
Right. being within the space, what are some of the brands that you're a fan of that you feel like are building their company the right way, that are really impacting our community positively from their cannabis success, if you can think of any?
A Black cannabis company that I believe in. To be honest, I'm not necessarily the kind of person that's like promoting other people's brands.
Right.
I really, all that to say, I really do enjoy. I have to think about it, to be honest, because normally when I
It's really not a
use
lot, honestly.
no, and I'm starting to come up with blanks, to be honest. And usually when it comes to cannabis, it's like if there's a Black person involved, it probably has to do with apparel, or probably has to do with the illegal side. So to be honest, right now it's more of a mixture in cannabis. Other brands, I don't really try to, put anyone down. I don't really want to say anything negative, but I will tell you that there are brands on the market right now that I do think have good products, but I think a lot of the time I'm a little bit more judgmental. I really like smoking. I find that it's therapeutic. It's something I do on an everyday basis, but there's a time and place. There's the mornings where I want a sativa, and the evenings where I might want a heavy indica. When it comes to smoking weed, I kind of go with what I need at that moment. So I don't really have any specific brand I love. To be honest, that's kind of why I got into this. And
Right, of course.
It wasn't that there weren't any products on the market. It's just that there was nothing that consistently kept my attention. A lot of it is like dried out, or brands that I loved at one point are no longer so, or they've been taken over and I didn't know, and they've changed their name, changed their products. There are a few different people that I know within the industry that are with specific positions, but when it comes to the full Black-owned brand, especially in California.
Right. Okay, cool. So my next question would be, what's the one thing that you wish someone told you when you came into to the industry? The thing that you had to spend a lot of time or energy or effort to figure out, that you would tell a new entrepreneur walking in right now?
The one thing that I would give advice to everyone is everyone has the best weed ever. Everyone has the best. So when they tell you that line, you have to just let it go over your head, because that's how it's going to be. Everyone has the top. And that's BS. We know that. But that's what I didn't realize, when someone is going to tell you that they have the best brand, it's not because they actually do. It's just pride. I mean, that makes sense. But when it comes after a while, it's like, okay, where's this competition? Who told you that you had the best strains? Because that's where it came from. A lot of the time when people say that they grow organically, they throw pesticides all over it, and they don't. And that's something that I found that I needed to learn who to trust. And my way is I would start visiting farms first. So as soon as I met a company, let's say at like a conference or something, it really eventually became something. The first thing that was important to me was to go find where they grew, because they could have a really great PowerPoint and the email documents could be amazing, but I want to see where it actually comes from. I wish that that was more known, just because people don't want you coming to their farms. They don't want you coming to them. But if you have the opportunity to, that's the most important, because you want to see the quality, where your plants are sitting, how much energy they're getting, the light deprivation, the whole thing. If they use an indoor grow, or if it's completely outdoor grown, those kind of things are obvious, but not necessarily for the first initial meeting. And I find that that's like, once I see how they treat their plants, I can kind of assume how they'll treat me and how they'll work in that relationship.
Okay. My next question would be, so as we both know, you can't really use traditional advertising tactics, right? You can't do like sponsored posts for the most part. You can't do like television commercials, stuff like that, being that it's still federally illegal. So what are some of the innovative ways you guys have figured out how to grow the awareness around Deuces in, you know, untraditional marketing.
I have this really cool partner, my dad, who just happens to because people always want to talk to him, and he does these wonderful little info commercials in the middle of whatever he's doing, and we'll just drop in some little information about Deuces. Let's say he's on The Real or he's on ESPN. There is going to be a Deuces shout out, and that's kind of something we realized is when you have your shtick, your intro, if you're not, or your outro, or whatever show you're on, any type of television, anything, slip it in there. And that, once it gets people talking, and they're like, wait, what did you just say? What are we talking about? We were talking about sports, and all of a sudden we're talking about cannabis, right, and why I should follow Deuces 22. And that's something that you know, if you make it natural and you do that, it's so much easier. And I found that's something I'm really lucky about. Not very many people have that opportunity, and I want to take full advantage of it. That's like the main thing that I've realized was a huge benefit of working with my dad. Was just how to get his world and my world to kind of come together. I also, we've been going to a lot of cannabis conferences, and I went to Vancouver, we were in Jamaica, we went like all over to find what people are doing in the different industries, because what's important in Canada is completely different to what's important in the US, and how we go about our industry is different. Yes, it's the same plant, but like they're not the same. It's just not the same. Right. Even the growth is completely different. So by going around and seeing all the different markets, we've made relationships with different people around the world. And by doing that, we've gotten sponsorships within like ICBC. We will help them sponsor some of their events, or I was on a panel, and that's just like within the cannabis industry. So by doing it that way, we sort of were able to go to different places. That's why my trip to Jamaica would have been great, because we were going to try and get into the local media like we did last time. Right. I didn't have coronavirus. So, but it's been kind of interesting because, yeah, we can't do this normal social media marketing. Usually I would have wanted to have a full online presence, but they keep deleting people's pages. So if you go slower and you do it in a way where it's not like completely in your face, it's going to take longer, it's going to be more expensive, and it's harder. So I feel like my situation is a little bit unique because I have more face time, if you will.
Right. Perfect. So I just have one more question, and I'll turn it over to my partner if he has anything. It would be, so for touching on the last thing that you said, for a lot of people of color who want to get out and go to these conferences, but don't really have the money or the time to go to every one that's popping up. And I think a lot of the newer ones are just trying to monetize so many people wanting to learn about the space. What are some of the more effective and just better conferences that you've attended that you would recommend to somebody who just really has the money to go to one, to really get their foot in, one or two? Which ones have really worked for you guys and what you're trying to accomplish?
Okay, so so there's the what is it called? The Marijuana Business Convention in
MJ BizCon
in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Very great conference. When I first went the first year, really, really great. I made a lot of really cool relationships. The only thing is I've been there multiple times. Not saying it's a bad conference. It's huge though. Like the biggest convention center in Vegas, kind of huge. I met a lot of people there. I would say if you're trying to go and see the whole, like for the first time, you just want to see what the cannabis industry is, I'd go there. But if you want to have a more unique or more tailored experience to, let's say, your community, in Michigan, they have the smoke, what's it called? The smoke bash. No, it's not the smoke bash. It's like, shoot. Now I can't think of it. There's a huge conference it's not a conference. It's a huge, let's say, party, if you will.
Right, like a meetup kind of.
In Michigan in Ann Arbor. What's the name of the conference?
Hash
Hash Bash. Hash Bash in Michigan. Really great. The reason why I liked it, in Ann Arbor specifically, the reason why I really liked that experience is because it was the most natural and relatable experience. You got access to people who just smoke weed, and then you got access to people who have their own businesses within Detroit or within all of Michigan. I found that experience, if anything, was the best because I was able to meet people within that community and learn how did they adapt to the new Michigan laws. And the same happened in California when I went to ICBC the first time. That's the International Cannabis Business Conference. The one in San Francisco was really eye-opening because I felt like it was big enough where a lot of people from across the country were coming, but it wasn't so big like MJ BizCon where you couldn't meet anyone, where you were overwhelmed by the amount of people that you were seeing, all the different samples and stuff like that. So I think if anything, going to one specific to your region, so if it's the Bay or the Midwest, or having something, we went to Jamaica and there was one talking about how to bring cannabis to Latino communities as well as within all of the Caribbean. And that was something, that conference was really cool because we were able to go to parties and meet different people within the whole Caribbean. So I think that's kind of, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. Ryan, do you have anything? I just have one more and then we can wrap up.
Yeah, well, Tyler, I was really impressed from the beginning. I followed y'all from like launch, and I remember all the photos of the greenhouse and how you could just see the quality, and y'all going next to the buds and seeing them. And obviously, when you're building a brand, right, the quality is such an important part. Can you just talk a little bit about that? Because we've seen a lot of influencer brands that have shot up that haven't really focused on the quality, and then their brand paid the price. Talk a little bit about why that was so important for you.
So originally when I first started the brand, we really wanted to do pre-rolled joints because I thought, how many people don't know how to roll? How many people are just novices when it comes to cannabis and they just want something quick and easy? I then quickly learned the reason why people don't initially start with pre-rolled joints, or if they do it because they don't care. The installation process of insulating weed is the most complicated pain in the butt ever, because it might be great for 5 days, but if you don't sell that package within 5 days, you're done. And people will say, oh, that stuff's dry, or it burns weird, or it canoes really quickly. And that is something that I instantly did not want to be associated with our brand. I instantly realized, what are all the things that I don't like about all the other brands that are on? And the main thing is their stuff was dry, and it had to do with the packaging that they chose. So it took us a lot to really focus on finding packaging that could live forever, but also not ruin the world. So I was really also interested in how to maintain an eco-friendly aspect to the brand, because I realized that if I'm bringing something to the market, I need it to be able to last multiple generations. I need it to last with multiple different communities, people who like pre-rolled joints. But not everyone likes pre-roll joints. Some people want to roll their own stuff. Some people like blunts. Not one of those, but some people do. Some people want to smoke out of their bong. So I realized I needed to make something that was a little bit more universal, but something that was trustworthy. So finding the right packaging, I think, is the main issue that most people have. Now, with the way that they're regulated, you have to have it completely child-proof and sealed, and it's really wasteful. And so we're trying to find a way where it was less wasteful, but also still kept that insulation and was still sexy. Because a lot of times it was like if you go to Canada and you try to buy from a dispensary, a legal dispensary, you're going to get a very generic gray bottle that says it's this much THC in it, this much CBD, this much THCA, and that's it. There's no branding except for a small little section that says this is the company it comes from. What? That is not sexy. That is not what we were going for. So I was like, okay, which markets can I establish that feel first and find the right packaging to also go with that? So we found Calyx Packaging in Boston, Massachusetts, and they really prioritize their they're all about having some type of packaging that it does all of the regulations. It has the childproof and everything. It's not super complicated though, where you can't open it, but it's also not going to last 500 years. It's going to decompose within 7 to 10 years, which is like perfect. So that's kind of, I think that main packaging is probably the most difficult thing when it comes to after you find your actual flower or whatever you're using, say oil or whatever, having the packaging to market to you correctly, but also give you shelf life, I think is one of the most difficult aspects of starting a brand.
No, that's such a point that people miss all the time, right? Everyone's like, oh, flower this, it was grown by this person, it was grown here. But if the packaging doesn't deliver in terms of aesthetics, if it doesn't keep the weed fresh, then what's even the point? So that's such an awesome point. And, you know, going off the packaging, and your dad mentioned it as well, that AR aspect of the labels. I actually know his business partner, Nav, and I've followed that whole AR logos things they've been doing. I'm such a huge fan of that. How do y'all think you'll leverage that going forward? Because that's such a unique marketing standpoint.
Yeah, I want to expand the AR to be able to be opened on multiple apps. Right now we have it so it's on the Deuces 22 app where you can use it to scan. I think it's important because authenticity. I found out in New York State, you can go and you can buy, what are they called? Chiba chews, the edibles, or you can buy some type of hustler. No, not hustler.
Yeah, there's some other I know what you're talking about. There's some other New York brands that have all the weird AR codes on them.
There's another brand that I'm completely blanking on right now. But the idea is I was in New York State when it was not legal at all, not recreational, and they're selling real products from real established brands that weren't real products from real established brands. Someone had completely copied their packaging, stuff whatever they wanted inside, and sold them. They were like, yep, this is, brass knuckles. They were like, this is brass knuckles.
Yeah.
And come to find out, it was not brass knuckles, but it was brass knuckles packaging. And I refuse for that to be the case because one, brass knuckles got in a lot of trouble, but also that then completely messes with the integrity of the brand. The flower is not the flower that I chose. The oil is not the oil that I chose. All of that. So it was really important to make sure that it's like quality, but also safe. And I think that's kind of why we really wanted to emphasize making sure that each packaging was completely individualized.
That's awesome. Andrew, I know you got one more, and that's it for me.
Okay, yeah, so we'll just wrap it up with this one last question. I know it's a really difficult question to answer because of the whole COVID situation, but what are some of the bullet points you want to accomplish in 2020 that would make you feel like you had another successful year at Deuces?
I want my packaging to be on every shelf of all the best dispensaries in Las Vegas and California, and well, not even just Las Vegas, Nevada. I want my Deuces packaging to be available in California, period. Flower One in Las Vegas and Nevada, and that relationship we have, we've been trying to officially launch multiple times, and with this whole situation, a lot of that those launches have been put on pause. And hopefully end of summer, that my stuff will be on the shelves because everything's ready. Everything is there. We have everything. So that's that probably. And I really want to open those relationships abroad. So right now I just found out that in Lebanon and Switzerland and in Paraguay, they're really opening cannabis. They're really making cannabis a new part of their economies. And I'm interested in starting to cultivate relationships within all those different countries because I want Deuces to be in America, but I want Deuces to be like Coca-Cola. I want it to be everywhere where you know quality every time you open it. It's going to be the best thing you've ever had. You know, oh, it might not be the exact same strain, but it's going to be good because it's Deuces 22. And I want to start those relationships with the new states and new countries that are starting to open up. Yeah.
And you're curating it too, which is amazing, because we know that there's a level of quality that's coming through with that, and being able to work with the specific people who deliver the quality is so important. So I'm really glad y'all are all on that.
Yeah, I think making those relationships first and testing out everyone and seeing what everyone's doing is the most important, so that I can really weed out and find, okay, what is the best situation for me? What's the best relationship that we can find? And I think right now, that's kind of what our main focus is.
Well, thank you, Tyler. I really appreciate it. We are very thankful for you guys to be our first guest at Green Enterprise. And we look forward to having more conversations like this with great business leaders like yourself.